Hello friends, this is Jaya for the session of digitalization. Today we are going to talk about the importance of the digitalization in an online business platform as well as with the scenario and advantages, as well as concluding the session with the interesting case study. So today the first slide comprises of the scenario where there are two friends, Bob and David, who are running the business of tours and travels, in which the Bob is earning less and David is earning more and more. The reason behind that Bob is earning less because he's using a traditional way of method where he is taking a lot of time to complete the requests, complaints, query of the consumers, as well as the David is earning more and more. Why? Because he's using the digitalization method. Because he's completing all the complaints, query, requests of the consumer in the time of the consumers are not wasted. In this way, David is earning more and more in this business. So now we'll learn about what is the difference actual between the traditional method and the digitalization method. So when we talk about the traditional method, that would be a more time consumption, more processing, and there are chances of errors and that's the reason where Bob is struggling to run his business smooth. On the other hand, when we are talking about the digitalization method, it is a less manpower is used, less time consumption is there, low costing is there, and the faster processing is there and more accuracy is there. So when we are talking about these key points for the digital, he has attached all these things to his business too on his online platform. So these are the main points when we are talking about the third point comes around what is actually digitalization. So when we talk about what is digitalization, in a simple word, they are of standing in a four pillars, that is the technology, app, automation process, and last is the organizational change. So when we talk about the technology we are using for our business, so it creates also and it modifies the existing business technology so that it becomes more effective and more transparent to the consumers, as well as it helps the business person to improvise more and more into the technology. That becomes really important when we are talking about it. So that is why the technology is always an important key point when we are defining digitalization in the words. Second comes the data. So whenever the technology is there, so data is also in hand, because you have to know, because the importance of the data compilation comes around when you compile this data about your brand or about your product. It becomes really important that where your brand or your product is standing in today's market situation. So that's the reason the data is really important. Third point comes the automation process. So this automation process in an online business tool, which simplifies the complexity of the business activity, which makes more transparent, more effective for the consumers as well as for the business, because the business persons can understand what all improvisations we can do or what improvement we can bring about in our product or what new things we can develop into it. So in other hand, the consumer is looking out for all these things because the consumers also required a new thing into your product. Then comes the organizational change. When we talk about technology, we talk about data, we talk about automation process. They are into a part of developing those your product and your brand. So in this way, when we are talking about organizational change, when you are sitting with a brand and you are looking out your product, you're compiling all the data for this product. So when you compile all those things, so the customer demands gets higher and higher because they want more and more improvised version for your product. So for that you have to make changes in your organization so that your product can meet the commitments of your consumers. That's the entire thing which completes the circle of the definition of digitalization. When this commitment is really completed, or it is really up to the mark of the consumer, that defines the entire digitalization in today's world in the business model. Second slide would be comprising of the importance of digitalization. So if we talk about the importance of digitalization, so we'll talk about, there are three key factors when we are talking about. First would be the accuracy which we have talked about earlier. So those accuracy part, when we are talking about, the accuracy is like everybody in a business doesn't want any errors to be happen regarding the product or a brand or a company. So even in the data they don't want errors, and it should not have errors when they are giving those the consumers are purchasing their product. So that's the reason when we are using that digitalization tool, it makes it happen that it talking about, it makes the things very easy to run the business smooth. Second point would be the importance that whatever the data you are having for your product, for your brand, for your company, whatever the improvisation data is there, whatever the development data are there, they're all secured on an online platform, whatever the developments you have done. So it becomes really easy. Why? Because when it is gets stolen, or if it is getting crash or is damaged or anything, it happens. But we have that plus point that we can retrieve that data on an online platform. But when we see in a traditional way, we can't do that because it's really not easy to do it, because we have to start from the scratch till the end, and it becomes a lot of time consumption when we are talking about. So that's the reason we take digitalization tool is the most important, most convenient to use in a business model, as well as the people are using in a domestic way also digital tools for their payments, for their purchasing online, or they want any to read something on an online platform. They can do it very easily without wasting their time, without traveling from one place to another. This is the one point where digital tool is really important in today's world. Now we'll talk about the examples of digitalization. When we talk about the digitalization's example, in today's world, even in a school form, earlier we used to go and fill up the form, but here even a simple form for anything, whether it is for a loan, whether it is for a credit card, whether it is for a school form, whether it is for any registration, we can do it online. We can scan all our documents over there, we can do a digital signature and get our things processing very fast, where it takes 2 to 3 days for the processing. But in a traditional way, it takes a lot of time, like 15 to 20 days, and we don't know that service will be come to us or not. So that is the main point when we are talking about the digital tool, which helps us to give all these facilities that we want at our doorstep, because everybody in today's world want that services to be at doorstep. Nobody wants to go and waste their money from traveling from one place to another, consuming their time to search about the product or the brand or anything. So if everything is available on an online platform, why would the person or the even in a business or a consumer point of view, nobody wants to waste the time nowadays. That's the main example of digitalization, where we can do a scanning, we can do a digital signature, we can fill up the forms, you can open an account on an online platform. These are the multiple examples when we are talking about a digital tool on a business platform. Then comes the advantages of digitalization. So when we talk about the advantages, so we have talked about the difference between traditional and digital method. So the advantages would be like the time saving, cost saving, the accuracy part is would be great, easy distribution whenever you want to distribute any information about your product or your brand or your company. You can do it through social media pages, because social media pages always grab the attention of the consumers, because people are not going to any particular website or something, but if the advertisement or anything which pops up in your social media pages, they always look around. But in a traditional way, you can just grab one or two people, but in digital tool you can grab up to 100 and 200 people's attention for your brand, for your product, and for the company information, whatever you want to. Be the increased in profits, which we talk about. So this was a very vital point when we are talking about the retention. So when we talk about the increase in profit, when you give a proactive service to your consumers by listening their queries, complaint, requests, and you are doing it instantly and trying to solve it as quick as possible, the consumers will be really happy with your service, and they will recommend your channel. Even they will come for your repeat purchases, and in this way your business will earning profit day by day, and they will recommend to the other people, so that the customer base will be doubled in your way when you are seeing the advantages of digitalization. So that is the main thing when we are talking about the advantage. These are the key points which helps to make the digitalization part very profitable for the business too, and which we all required, because we don't want to consume our time. We always want that it should be accurate, it should be good for the consumers as well as for the business owners, that the consumer, all the focus popularizing your brand and the product in the market situation. So now we'll conclude with the interesting Now we are discussing about an interesting case study which is based on a QR code, how the QR code is usable or the benefit for the tours and travel industry, which I'm taking the case study today, which is really interesting in my point of view, but who are running all the business in the tours and travel business. So these are some points which I wanted to make you understand what is actual thing in it, what are the points when we should look about when we are looking about it. So the first point or the first question which comes into your mind, why QR code is important in tours and travel industry. So whenever you visit a foreign country or a domestic, it can be more interesting when you are using that QR code, and that means you can get all the information about the destination, the history of that visiting place, even each and every restaurant or pubs or anything, if you're going to any foreign country. So if the QR code is there and you can scan it and get all the information in your smartphone, that would be more usable. I think that is more convenient for you as well as for the consumer, because as much the consumers scan it, you can get the count in your pocket and you can increase that day by day. So that's why we say that QR code is really important when you are running the tours and travel business industry. So what I look about the points, the first point would be the QR code has a travel pass. The first point which in my mind came through is for the travel pass. So what do you understand by a QR code, a travel pass, where whenever the traveler is traveling with this pass, he has, and it has a QR code with him, immigrant officer, he should not stand in a queue, and he can do it in a convenient way that makes it easy for the tourist to holding that traveling pass. Because when he scans that, or when he is trying to doing it online, the data in that particular QR code just cross that, and he can do his other services which is required over there to board the plane. So that's the reason the travel pass with the QR code is really important. So when the tourists visit the foreign country, after all these things, if in that part, whichever the country he is visiting, if they have a menu QR code in the smartphone with that particular travel agency, that is more and more convenient, because he can scan it and he can see the entire menu for it. He can understand where are the hotels and what are the menu in that. So that is more convenient, and the usage of that whenever he is sitting in a hotel and he is just scanning that from his smartphone, it makes it easy for ordering his food, and he doesn't have to sit in a queue or stand in a queue for his service to be done. So that is the second point when we are talking about tours and travel industry, why the QR code is really important. Third is the contact tracing. So contact tracing with the QR code is really helpful for health precaution, because nowadays there is a COVID problem all over the India, so all over the world it has. So when you have this QR code, you can understand, you can update the details. Okay, this person is safe, and if he is infected or something like that, you can have that data, their whereabouts of this particular traveler from this QR code, because it generates all the data and it is updated in the system. That's why QR code is really important in contact tracing, where you can know each and every data about the traveler. Fourth point would be when you are traveling, which I understand is the main thing, is a hotel check-in. Everybody doesn't want to stand. I would suggest, nobody wants to stand at a hotel check-in and filling up the forms and doing all the stuff and standing in a queue when the one person will go and then your roll number will come. But if I see that if the traveler can do it online by scanning a particular QR code on the reception area, and he can just, because the form is embedded into that particular QR code, and he can just fill it up online and he can do a check-in instantly. That would be really helpful in a tourism department agency, and plus for the consumers itself, because it simplifies the things, it doesn't complex the things, and the traveler doesn't have to stand for a while for his service to be served. So that is the reason when we are talking about the QR code that can be used in a tours and travel industry, these are the main things which are the takeaways which we can understand. These points are really important when you're running a business like that. Then there is a point where the image of a QR code. What do you understand by the image of the QR code? When we are talking about any image, when you just go to any place, and if there is a QR code on a stand or something, and if you just scan it, you can get all the details about that particular image or about that particular things where you have visited, that makes a lot of information to that particular QR code, and that makes it important for your tourism, because it increases the scan. If the travelers are scanning like that, you can get the count that how many people are doing it, and it helps in your business to grow. So these are the points when we are talking about. Second would be, I would suggest, in every tourist point, any tourist place, any foreign country, if you go, there is a language problem. You all agree with that. If you go to Poland, Polish, Spanish. So if I know only the English, so we don't know how to communicate with them. But there is an easiest point in a tourism where you can just scan that in a office, in that particular office, and you can get a translator guide. In that, you can easily communicate in that office. If you want to communicate, if you don't know that language, you can just easily connect to that person through this QR code as a translator guide. And it is a guide for everything. If you're visiting to a place, and it is a full book guide for you, and you can understand with that particular QR code, you can get all the information you wanted where you have gone for your vacation or your destination. So that is the main key points when we are talking about the QR codes, how it enhances the tourism department. So these are the few points which I can understand. First would be the travel pass, second would be the menu QR code, third would be the hotel check-in, and fourth would be the image QR code, and the important offices for the translation, whatever you required in that particular field. You want a guide for a translation, you want a guide for the entire tour of yours. So it makes easy for a traveler to communicate, to understand what he has to do, where he has to go. It saves the time, and it helps him to decide what to do in the entire tour of his or her, what he's gone to some foreign country. So these things already helps for the consumers as well as with the business owner. Last and the main point for this is the feedback. How do you get these feedback through QR code? You would understand that when you are, it's a really vital point whenever the traveler or a tourist is staying in your hotel, or he has used your service. When it is completed, some people used to do a paperwork part, which we considered as a traditional thing. So it makes really difficult. And the person, okay, this is a paperwork, everybody wants, okay, we can do it afterwards. So this comes, you can't give a feedback to the hotel or a tour agency or something. But when you do it online, if they are giving a promotional mail to you and giving you a QR code, you just scan it and you fill up the form or whatever the feedback or whatever you give it. It gives an instant solution for it, so that as soon as you receive those feedback for your company, for your service, so you can understand what are the improvisation, what are the improvements you should be doing it for your further tours and travels. So that is why it is really important when you're talking about a digital queue and the feedback, both go hand in hand whether you are doing any business. So these two important things are always present, because everybody wants, even a small restaurant also want feedback for their food and everything. So this is how tours and travel works around, and it is really important because digital queue and feedback go hand in hand when you are running a business on an online platform. So I am representing the company Uxlivinglab, where we are the total market research consultant, where we work on a customer insight more and more, where we try to get you the clear picture about what is exactly our company works through. So we work on a, so this is our site actually. Inside we do the reporting work, and we can provide and understand how your brand is working in today's current market situation. So that you can understand how it works and how it goes, and we can try to innovate the things. We can give you the ideas where you can improvise your product or a brand. So this is what we do. So I'll be providing you the QR code to visit to our page, as well as I will give you a calendar link where you can book an appointment anytime, anywhere. If you want to connect with us to know about how the company mainly works, what are the products, what are the features, and how is the pricing goes out. So you can do it like this way. If you want other information, general information about a company, even that also I can help you out. And that is what we do, because our main focus is always on our customers, to help out, to give them an instant resolution which they always required. And you also agree with that. Whatever the business you are running, the customer is the main focus point of everything, because you need the feedback, you need also connected with the QR code, where the registration is very simple, where you can just go to our website, just have a look, just have a feel about how our website works, how our interface works, how we work around. So you can just have a feel in it, and you can just put your initial detail, that is your name and your email ID, and the QR code is created for you. And if you want an appointment, you want with us, whatever you want information about us, even if you want any help regarding your product or a brand, we can also help you in that. So we are always ready to help to our consumers. That is what we all do, and main motto is to help, and the customer focus is always there. So whatever you required from my side, I will give you the entire thing. So I hope you enjoyed the session very well. Thank you so much for joining our session.